Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Hi, chosen ones, welcome back to 𝑣𝒂𝒂 Divine Palace. And in this message I will discuss: put on the full armor of God. The scripture I will be reading is in Ephesians chapter 6 verses 11 through 13. The scripture states, "Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day. And having done all, to stand." So the first part of the scripture, which is verse 11, in Ephesians chapter 6, says, "Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." So the meaning of wile is devious or cunning stratagem employed in manipulating or persuading someone to do what one wants. So the first word utilized in the definition of wile is devious. And the meaning of devious is showing a skillful use of underhanded tactics to achieve goals. And underhanded means acting or done in a secret or dishonest way. And tactic means an action or strategy carefully planned to achieve a specific end. So to embed or substitute the meaning of devious, it is showing a skillful use of secrecy to strategize a plan to achieve a specific goal. So if a person is devious, they are very good at being secretive. And they are very sneaky. And they do things behind a person's back, so the other person doesn't know what they're up to. But guess what? God dislikes devious people. Because that is like cheating in a game but being very slick about it just to win. In other words, people who are not of God, they know that they have to be sneaky when it comes to trying a child of God. Because they know that the child of God is more powerful than them. So they take the underhanded route. But God saw exactly the hand you played, and He is wrath, because you played an unfair game. The second word utilized in the definition of wile is cunning. And the meaning of cunning is having or showing skill in achieving one's ends by deceit or evasion. In other words, cunning means having or showing skill in achieving one's ends by lying or beating around the bush. The third word utilized in the definition of wile is stratagem. And the meaning of stratagem is a plan or scheme, especially one used to outwit an opponent or achieve an end. In other words, stratagem is a plan, scheme, or tactic used by an opponent to outsmart the other person. So this is where an opponent tries to make up strategies to one-up or to come out on top. But at the end of the day, you can't outsmart a child of God, because God's team never loses. And God is a genius. And God is the most powerful being. So you can't win. So all of the strategies that you come up with, just erase them, because it is useless. And all the schemes and plots that you have against a child of God is not going to work, because God will reverse it back unto you. It will always backfire on you every single time, because you are messing with a king's child, a genius supremacy's child, a supreme and superior being child. So you cannot play with a child of God. It is beyond real. Because guess what? God has His hands on them. Therefore God is not playing with them. And if you try to come up against one of God's children, God is going to send His judgment and His wrath upon you. And you'll get a nudge in your spirit. And then you are going to know right then and there that it was sent from God. Because You tried playing with one of God's children and thought that nothing was going to happen. Well, think again. Think twice. Because God is not playing with them. And God has his hands on their life. And they are God's precious baby. So if you touch or mess with one of God's precious babies, you are going to catch God's hands. And you do not want to get it on with God, because God is not a human being. God is a superior being. So do not play with any of God's children, because he is going to have something coming for you, which is God's angels and army that are going to come up against you. And do not try to convince or persuade God or his children, because you can't. Because the whole time you were being evil to a child of God, God was watching everything. And God knew your intentions and your every move. God knows your every thought. So do not act like you are innocent, because you are not. And God knows you're not. So God is not going to believe anything you say. Because 1, you're evil. 2, you disobeyed God countless times. 3, you came up against a chosen child of God. 4, you're guilty. And so on and so forth. The next verse, which is verse 12 in Ephesians chapter 6, says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood." So listen clearly. We are not wrestling with people. We are wrestling with spirits. So stop looking at the physical aspect of things. Look at the spiritual aspect of things. Because we are fighting against spiritual forces and the evil spirit behind a physical person. The next part of the scripture says, "But against principalities." So the meaning of principalities is evil and malicious spirits who make war against the people of God. The principalities of Satan are usually in view here beings that have power in the unseen realms to oppose everything and everyone that is of God. Simply speaking, we are fighting up against evil spirits in an unseen realm. Even though we can't see it, we can sense it, and we can feel it. And this is what principalities are. Now the next part of the scripture says, "Against powers." So we are not only fighting up against evil and malicious spirits, but also against evil powers, which are fought in both heavenly and earthly realms. The next part of the scripture says, "Against the rulers of the darkness of this world." So on this earth and in this world, there are evil people in power that are trying to control us in a negative way, who are trying to take over the world and make the world be against God and turn away from God and disobey God. But that's not going to happen. Because guess what? God never loses. God will always win in the end. So they can keep trying all they want, but they're going to keep failing after every attempt. Because God is almighty and all-powerful. Listen up, everyone. God gave each and every one of us free will on this earth. So you should not allow any system to have control over you. Because God is the only one in control. Nobody on this earth has control over you. And you need to understand that. And the next part of the scripture says, "Against spiritual wickedness in high places." So this means that Satan is a spiritual being who uses his evil team members to pollute the world with negativity and try to affect this planet and to try to oppose the purposes God is doing on earth. And the reason why the battle is spiritual is because God is a spirit and Satan is a spirit. And even though God created all humans, the battle is still fought spiritually. So we have to learn how to tap into the spiritual world. Because it is literally going on while we are living in a physical world. Yes, we are in the flesh. Yes, we are humans. Yes, we have a physical body. But this is a spiritual fight. And you guys need to wake up and come to grips. And that the battle we face every single day is spiritual. There are evil entities and evil spirits roaming this world because this is a tactic used by the devil to attempt to pull more people towards his team. Because he is a sore loser. And he got kicked out of heaven. Because he wanted to take on the role of God. But God said, "You're dismissed from my kingdom." So now the devil is basically trying to get revenge on God for being kicked out of heaven, by targeting the children of God, and trying to lead them astray from serving God. But God is more powerful than Satan. And Satan does not even deserve to even be said in the same sentence as God.
Ew.
At the end of the day, God's children will win. Because God is a winner. Then the next part of the scripture says, "Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God." So God didn't say half of the armor, some of the armor, a little bit of the armor. God said the whole armor. Which continues on saying in this verse, "That you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand." So once you put on the full armor of God, you are covered, protected, and shielded from the evil entities, evil spirits, and the evil powers. And nothing is going to be able to come up against you because you have on the full armor of God. And once you have on the full armor of God, that's it and that's all. You are protected, my dear. You are guarded, hun. God is protecting you. You are divinely covered, child of God. And God has his hedge of protection over you. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, chosen ones.